Hey everyone, happy June 3rd. So I was looking into today and there's a lot of significance in the date. So there's an event going on called the Parade of Planets where you have planets such as Saturn, Mercury, Uranus in alignment right now, which positions a lot of us to be in a good spot if we are trying to tap into our intuition, just gain a little bit more insight and even manifestation. So if there's anything that you're working on that you want to start planning or just kind of like hashing out, today's the day. So I want to do a little tarot reading for today, but before I get there, I just want to say that I got a really cool opportunity to go around to some local businesses and just network. I really do appreciate socializing and talking to fellow business owners, especially since I'm like relatively new. And there's not really like a guideline for forming your own business. Like you have like couple like business planning guides and things like that. But oftentimes, like when you're brand new, it can be a little bit intimidating, especially when we have this kind of collective competitiveness. I just don't really subscribe to that. I'm a firm believer that we can all win. And I very much appreciate collaboration. So before we get started for today, I'm actually going to cleanse the deck. Today we're going to be using the Golden Art Nouveau deck by Julia Massaglia. I hope I pronounced that right. I always forget. So we're just going to do a quick sound cleansing. And we're going to call upon our favorite Archangel Michael. I've been feeling very cold to that spiritual protection lately. But this is more going to be like a mindfulness piece. But we're going to call upon Archangel Michael to just give us a sense of clarity and protection, especially since oftentimes, like when I think of Archangel Michael, I have this kind of like a lion theme. And when I think of lion, I also think of like Leos who are very powerful and just like very sure of themselves. And kind of goes back to the symbolism of just like protecting. So that's the one thing that I always think about when I think about Archangel Michael. So for today, we're just going to see how we can close out our day and what we can focus on for tomorrow. Okay. So let's just see what we get. What do we get for today? Hey, so we got the Seven of Wands. Okay, so real quick, I just want to show you the art. That's why I love these cards, dude. Like the gold foil is just brighter than all of my aspirations. So first off, when it comes to the Seven of Wands, oftentimes like this can kind of feel like we're on like the defense, if you will. So if you look at the artwork, I like to read the energy and then also the symbolism in the card. So look at our individual here, right? So we have the wands kind of almost in like a attacking manner. So if we've been feeling a little bit caught off guard, or maybe someone brought something to our attention that might make us be feeling defensive, that's just something to be mindful of, right? So if you want to close out today, think about, okay, like, was I overly defensive when someone gave me feedback, right? For tomorrow, if you are feeling kind of just like off your game or on your guard, like trying to protect yourself, see if there's an opportunity to be vulnerable, right? Because I think a lot of times we forget that people aren't mind readers. So if something happened where you felt caught off guard or you kind of feel like you have like your walls up, let's challenge that and see what is it specifically that can be contributing to that, right? So if we're thinking about it from the mindfulness piece, a lot of times we have these kind of like micro triggers, if you will. I like to think about it in the sense of certain phrases or situations. can trigger us into feeling like, what was that? Okay, and then our ego takes over, right? And oftentimes, like we start reading into things a little bit too much. So if we've been kind of feeling at odds with those around us, close out the day with reflecting on how can I lower my defenses and be vulnerable with people who are emotionally safe, right? Because I also want to be like aware of the fact that sometimes we just don't have people that we can talk to, right? Especially if it's things that are on a deeper level. It's actually a privilege to be able to have a relationship with someone that you can just kind of like go to in a non-judgmental fashion. So that's one thing that I think about when it comes to the wands. So wands also has to do with our passions and like our career oftentimes. So did someone get like feedback from like a boss, right? Did we feel triggered by said feedback? Are we feeling kind of like isolated in our work environment, right? Where it's kind of like us versus like our colleagues. And if so, you want to just kind of like reflect on that a little bit more and think about how can I verbalize my needs and also stick to your boundaries, right? So I want to get a couple of like clarifying cards for this because if we're closing out the day, I want to think about like what it is specifically that has to do with like feeling like on the defense or like we got our guard up, right? Because like sevens and numerology can like tend to involve opportunities, evaluation, like futuristic thinking. So let's get another clarifying card there. Okay, so let's see what we got. Okay. Okay. All right. So we actually got the Two of Swords. Okay. So I want you to show the artwork first. Okay. So one thing that always comes to mind when I see this card is the fact that we have the blindfold on, right? So swords has to do with our thinking and our mindset. So where is it that we're kind of like purposefully being indecisive, right? Or just like, nope, I'm not thinking about that. I don't want to do it, right? So in regards to this card, if we're feeling on the defense in terms of our creative projects or like work, do we feel like we have a decision that we got to make, right? Do we feel that we have the support systems and the resources in place to focus on what it is that we want for the future, right? Especially with our passions? Or are we kind of like almost in between worlds, right? Working for someone else in that sense of stability, or doing my own thing and focusing on my passions, right? Uh, if we get the Two of Pentacles, then that would definitely be a clarifying card in terms of like career and like what we want to do for that avenue. But oftentimes, when it comes to the Two of Swords, we're almost kind of like at a crossroads in terms of our mindset, right? This could also kind of be like our defense mechanism when we're kind of just like split down the middle, right? Almost kind of like black and white thinking, right? It's either like all good or all bad. So I either like go all in with my job that has the beautiful bennies, right? Like I got health insurance and all that good stuff, or I go the path less traveled that's a little bit more uncertain and I'm not really sure like where it's gonna take me, but I'm just gonna like risk it, right? So I think with okay, now I just want to like get another card because like now I'm very very curious. So with Two of Swords usually has to do with like indecisiveness, right? And then twos also have this kind of theme of balance and also involving like another person, whether it's like a partnership, friendship, or relationship. So it could be that we're feeling maybe indecisive about if I feel defensive about feedback regarding like career or passion projects, right? Am I going to be unintentionally cutting someone off, right? So any decision that aligns with your values is going to tend to like ruffle somebody's feathers, right? Especially if they're benefiting from, you navigating that decision as you already have been. So let's get a little bit more clarity, okay? The Six of Cups. Okay, cool. All right, so real quick. So, ups has to do with our feelings and our emotions. So, with the six, right? So, if you look at the artwork here, you got like two children, right? And this has to do with like feeling like nostalgic or feeling like sentimental, if you will. And then also kind of like that childlike sense of like wanting to help, right? So if we're connecting this to our other two cards, you might be craving a little bit more of that like simplicity from like when you were younger, right? So as we navigate adulthood, right, we're going to just naturally have more responsibilities and it's going to feel really hard to juggle. So going back to our other two cards, right? So we got Seven of Swords, no, sorry, Seven of Wands, Two of Swords, and the Six of Cups, right? So if we're wrapping up today, right, like maybe something happened involving like a passion project, a career or something where we felt like on the defense, something rubbed us the wrong way, right? We're feeling on guard a little bit, right? Maybe there's like some subconscious insecurity that came up because you asked a question at work and someone's tone made you kind of like go like, ooh, all right. And the Two of Swords has to do with decision making, right? So you might feel like you have to make a choice, but it doesn't mean you have to make it right now, right? You might just be, again, in between worlds. Like, do I continue where I'm at? Do I take the risk? It doesn't even have to be career, right? It could be like anything. And then with the Six of Cups, right? We might be thinking about kind of just like following what feels good to us, right? Because the more you add on to your plate, the more it's going to feel like you're stretched in different directions, right? And then the reason why I like the Six of Cups too is this is a very kind card. It's also like very community centered, I like to think, especially in the realm of like when we were kids, right? So depending on your childhood, right? Oftentimes, like we used to be like very like, hey, like let's be friends, like like my name's so and so. And as we get older, because of our past experiences, we start kind of like side eyeing people, like, can I trust you? Like going back to the competition piece, right? So what I want you to take away. So reflect on this tonight, and then in the morning, see how you feel, right? So whatever it was that maybe had you feeling on guard, check in with that, right? Like, is there evidence to support that? Or did our thoughts kind of like get away from us, right? Like, okay, like our boss had a tone maybe, but does that have anything to do with this? Or is that just an isolated incident, right? Like, was that directed at us or are we assigning more meaning, right? And then decision making. If you feel like you're stuck in between a decision, right? Check in with your values, see what's going to feel more in alignment, that's going to have that natural flow. And then also, it's okay to feel nostalgic, it's okay to feel sentimental, right? Oftentimes we feel like, I don't want to be vulnerable, I don't really want to like navigate that, but it only has to make sense to you, right? So, based off of what happened today, tomorrow's going to be a brand new day, right? So call upon what you feel like makes the most sense to you and simplify your life a little bit, right? So I hope that helped. And if you enjoyed today's reading, let me know. Okay. Thanks so much. Take care. And then remember, you're always divinely protected, and I appreciate you so much. Take care.